Hi everyone, it's Claire from ScrappyNerdUK and welcome back to the cut files, which is my new series, and this is episode number 2. So here I'm going to be using a cut file that is a mini album. So I know that some people aren't a fan of mini albums because they don't like constructing them and putting them together, but I thought I would show you a real simple way to make a mini album that doesn't have to take forever to construct and to put together, and it's all done for you. So as I said before in my last video, that this series I'm going to be using the cut files from Paige, and you can find those on her Etsy store. And this one is called, I think this is called Envelope Mini Album. So I'm going to be using Take Me Away for my collection of choice for this mini album. And I have gone through my stash of supplies for that collection, and I had quite a lot of 6x6 papers left, so I've used those and I've cut these out on my cutting machine, and I'm just going to place them all back where they belong. So I actually drew a picture out of each of the pattern papers, and then I've numbered them on the back, just a reminder as to where each of them go. If you're doing this all at the same time, then you can just take it straight off the mat and put it on, or if you're just using one pattern paper, then that will help you as well. So that is all of the pattern papers down. Now before doing that, I did just run them through my sewing machine and added some stitching around the edges. I love the detail of adding stitches, or stitching should I say, and sewing machine is the quickest way by far to get that done. So I want to keep the outside of the mini album fairly white. So I want it to continue to look like an envelope. So I'm going to concentrate on making the inside of my album where all the colour is, and then the outside, as I said, it's going to be fairly white with a little bit of decoration. So I'm just constructing the envelope which goes into the middle, and again I have already pre-stitched around that cut file. So the whole cut file comes with the base, and it comes with all of the bits for the layering bits and bobs. It also comes with the envelope, and it comes with the outer closure and the bow, but we'll come on to the outer bit just shortly in the video. So what I've done here is, because I'm using a lot of colour in this album, I actually printed my photos in black and white for this. And I decided to grab a whole load of photos. My dog's been quite poorly, and I wanted to scrap some photos of her, just so I've got a little mini album of photos just of her. And so yeah, I printed all of these. Some of them come out a little darker, but it's okay. It's they're scrapped now. They're in the album, and yeah. So I printed them in different sizes, and I just sized up depending on where I wanted to put the photos. And I'm going to layer some of them over the top of one another to just to give myself a little bit of added interest with some of these. And then I decided that I wanted another photo on top of the envelope. So I'm sticking this one down, and I probably could have done this in a much better way, but I'm just making sure that I'm adding adhesive just to the top part of that photo where it's actually going to attach to the flap part of the envelope. So next I'm just going to go through the stash that I've got left from Take Me Away and decide what bits I want to include. That little branding strip there was from the 6x6 paper pad, so I thought that's going to make it on there. So I'm just trimming the perforation off of that, and I'm going to pop that straight across those two photos at the top. And I don't have masses left of this collection, but also I was very mindful that I couldn't have anything too bulky inside the album. So with adding all of those layers of pattern paper, it's already going to be fairly chunky to close up. So I decided that I was just going to keep my embellishments fairly flat. There are some dimensional embellishments that I add on, but I don't add a whole load. And also, if I was to cover the outside of the album in pattern paper as well, that is just going to add to the bulk of it, and potentially it could, I mean, I don't know until I've tried it, but it could cause a problem trying to get the album closed and to stay shut. So that's what part of the reason why I decided to go with a white base. You could just cut the base out of pattern paper and then not have the layering bits, or just add some layering bits on top, whichever you decide is best for you. So I had this paper that was a 12 by 12, and it had all these little 3 by 4 cutter parts, you would call them. They just look like journaling cards almost. So I'm going to use the back of these to add on my extra photos that are going to be going into that envelope. And I'm just trimming those out to get rid of the edge. And then each of those, I've put one photo on the back of each of those. And those photos I think are roughly 3.5 by 2.5. So it gives me plenty of extra space for embellishing. And then I had this paper in the 6 by 6 paper pad, and it's got a whole load of embroidery hoops with sentiments in. And I tried to fussy cut one, and I thought actually I'll just try it with if I punch the sentiment out, and I do prefer it with the punch sentiment. And then I've got these clear domed stickers, and it almost turns it into like an epoxy flare. So I'm going to be using these on top of the punched out sentiments, and then I'm going to add one to each of the 3 photos that go into the envelope. Now, if you're sensible, then you wouldn't try and put that bit back in the punch to try and get it out, but I managed to make it work because I really wanted the sentiment on that one. I think it says keeping it real. So I'm just going to add one of these little circle epoxy dots onto each of the photos, and those are just going to be popped straight into the envelope in the middle. And I'm not going to add any more embellishing on. As I said, I need to be very mindful about how much dimensional embellishments I add into this mini album. So there's 3 sentiments there that worked really well, and then those all just go into the envelope. Now notice that I haven't actually stuck the envelope in yet, and that is because the strap that goes around the outside needs to go on first. So I'm leaving the envelope off until the last minute, until I've put the actual closure bit on. And then this paper here, I think is the same as the 12 by 12 paper that I've just used inside the envelopes, but these are obviously on a much smaller scale. So I'm going to use that one there that says Never Not Loving You. And this photo is just adorable. It's my 2 dogs cuddled up together on the sofa. And so I wanted that one to be outside of the envelope rather than in. And I'm just having a look on that 6 by 6 cut apart sheet and seeing if there's anything else that I want to include. And then there was this little one that says Wild and Free. And then I also wanted I wanted some space within this album to add some journaling in. So I'm going to use the left pocket to tuck a few bits in for me to be able to add some journaling, either to the front or the back. So I add this little one in there in front of the photo. So I think I've tucked 2 photos in, and I've just left all the photos with a tiny white border, and I haven't layered any more pattern paper behind the photos because, as I said, I need to be mindful of the bulk in the album. And so I'm going to keep it as it is with no more pattern paper behind the photos, and the white around the photos just help them to pop off the back of the coloured, the pattern paper, should I say. So one more epoxy sentiment up there as well at the top. And then I decided that I was going to have a look through my stash of Oh My Heart, and I mean, you can see the box here is literally dregs left. And but I did make a DIY ephemera kit, which I have, there's a video up on my channel with that, and you can see I made an absolute ton, and I think I've made 4 or 5 layouts using this DIY ephemera pack, but I've still got tons left, labels and bits that I fussy cut out. So I'm actually going to go through this pack now, and I'm not going to make you sit and have a look at all the bits that I pulled out, but you'll see me go through them each one by one and decide where I want them to go on the layout, in the mini album. So this one here is that was from a 12 by 12 sheet, and it had all the letters of the alphabet, but I found that I hadn't used the T yet, so I popped in the T for treacle. And this one here as well, I think that was the Today clipboard. I think that was from another sheet that I sat and fussy cut. And then this little stamped sentiment here that says seriously, and I'm just going to add my journaling straight on to that part there. And that journaling there, it's quite a funny photo actually. I woke up one morning and had put my bra on the floor the night before, and I'd woke up and she had got herself tangled with my bra strap around her nose, and it was hilarious. So I wanted to add that photo in just to show her goofy side. So that Wild and Free was really looking quite washed out. So just some messy lines around that just to help it pop a little bit more. Then I had this word here that again was in my DIY ephemera pack. And so I'm just going to add on some wet glue where it touches the photo. So I don't want to do it all the way across in case it touches the actual envelope, which would be a disaster because it would seal the whole thing shut. So I'm just adding some wet glue and just making sure that gets stuck down before I move on to the next bit. And then this one here, this was from like a pack of word phrase stickers that again I included in my DIY ephemera. And I love the sentiment on this, so I'm just going to add some tape and that goes on. And then you can see a couple of labels that I have tucked in at the top of those photos as well. And then next up, I'm going to have a look just to see what I can add up into that top right empty square I've got there. So just adding a couple of bits of chipboard, and these aren't too thick. So as long as I don't add too many in. So where I've placed them, I've done it that when it all folds in, I don't have multiple bits of chipboard on top of each other. So this one here, I'm just going to add that bow. It fits perfectly inside that little box up there. And then I think I add one more, which is just this little XO. And then I'm going to add that on top of this heart. And that heart there was from, I just stamped out, I think I stamped that heart shape onto an Oh My Heart paper and then fussy cut it out, and then that has made it into this mini album also. So the last few things then, just another little bit to place down there, and I think that's all of the chipboard that I actually add on because I can't risk having any more, otherwise it won't shut. Now the cut file does come with the closure, but for some reason I didn't cut it out when I was cutting the cut file. So it's not a problem because I have just measured, I think it's 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to trim down 2 strips from this offcut of paper that I had left. And I actually decide that I want that pinky purple bit. So I'm just going to trim that bit out instead. And then what I'm going to do, just to make the closure a little sturdier, I'm actually going to stick 2 of these back to back. So hopefully there's no risk of it tearing if I'm sort of opening the album a little bit heavy-handedly. So yeah, I'm going to just do these back to back, nice and easy. And then once this is situated in the album, then I can then think about going ahead and getting the envelope stuck in. So just messing with this first of all, just making sure that I've got no double-sided tape hanging out from over the edges, because that would cause it to be a problem when trying to, potentially when trying to open and close the album if it gets stuck. And then I'm just going to now thread that through from the back to the front, and then the same at the bottom. And then this will give you an idea as to how this all closes up. So the side bits on the right fold down, and then they fold in, and then the bottom folds up and the top folds down. And then these two come in together, and that is where the closure is going to be created. So I'm just measuring how much of that pattern paper I need and just trimming it off. As I said, if you are silly like me and forget to cut that bit of the cut file, then all is not lost. You can just go ahead, and to be fair, you could just use the base of the cut file and not the layering pieces, or you don't have to use all of them, so you can adapt them to your own style. Now, this mini album took me just over an hour. So I know that one of the concerns that I've heard from people before is how long it takes to make a mini album. But actually this takes out the stress of having to think about dimensions and all that sort of thing. So it's all done and sorted for me already. So I don't need to worry about whether my layers are going to fit. I don't need to worry about measuring. It's all done, and I can get it all stuck in pretty quickly. So I'm just going to give the envelope a little bit of room on the top and the bottom, so I don't give it a definitive score line, and I just use my bone folder just to rub it slightly where it starts to bend, just to give it that bit of a bend shape. But I don't actually go and score it down because it needs some room with the bits that are inside. And then I'm going to add on a Velcro closure to keep this all closed. And these are fairly inexpensive, to be honest. So it's one of the things that I use every now and then, and they're great to have in your stash, especially for mini albums and such, just to keep things closed and together. And then you'll see there that I can just pull the Velcro, and the envelope then the mini album starts to pop open. So as I said, on the cut file, you actually get a bow cut file as well as part of it. And this is super easy to construct, and it looks so cute on the front of the album. So just going to add some red line tape just to make sure this all stays stuck down. And you can see there that I've gone ahead and stitched around the bow as well. One little tip is I use a bone folder just to start curling some of the actual bow bit around. Just be careful not to pull it too much, because I've done that a few times and ended up ripping it. So just a gentle curl, and that helps give you that natural bow shape. And then again, I'm just sticking with a red line tape just to make sure everything stays nice and stuck down. And then you've got the little band that goes around the middle, which covers it all up. And then that is going to go onto the fishtail banner piece behind it. And there we are, just sticking that down. Again, super quick, so easy to do. And all of the thinking and measurements have been taken out of the equation, because you just cut it from a cut file. So of course I needed to do 2 sheets for this, because I used white cardstock, and then I just used, well, I would have done 2 sheets if I just used 12 by 12 pattern paper, but as I said, this is great because I just used pattern paper that I had left over, so I didn't need lots of supplies to make this album, which is great. And yeah, it was great to be able to dig into an older collection and make something out of it. So last thing for the bow, then I'm just going to adhere this. Now I need to make sure that I stick this to the top part of the closure, because this needs to lift up when I go to open the mini album. So I'm going to use red line tape, and again I just need to make sure that I'm only sticking it down where the middle, where the strip actually is. Just measuring that, just making sure I've got it all lined up. There we are. And then, as I said, that's it. That bow is now on the album. I'd be very careful I wouldn't try and pull it from the bow. I would actually try and lift the strap from underneath when you're pulling it up. But I've used red line tape. If you're concerned about it coming off, then use hot glue or wet adhesive. But I'm hoping red line tape might just keep it on there. Now I wanted to add one of these little charms from the Oh My Heart collection, and I was going to try and get the gold thread underneath, but where I'd used red line tape and stuck it down, it was not coming back up. So I'm just going to tie it through the middle of the bow, And this is just some gold thread from We Are Memory Keepers, which is one of my favourite gold threads, and it goes through, quite often it goes through my sewing machine like a dream as well. And then I'm just going to thread that onto, when I can get it, going to thread that onto this little heart, and I'm going to have that as a little dangle on the front of the mini album. And I'm just going to tie a little bow. And one little tip with when you're using threads, so you don't see me do it in this video, but once I've tied that bow, I'm then going to trim the ends, and what I do is I just add a dot of glossy accents to the middle of the bow, and then that helps keep the bow together and stops it coming undone. So I thought I would mention that because I do that right at the end off camera. And then I'm just going with, I think these are from Pick Me Up, these tiny alphas, which are my all-time favourite alphas. And this is, you'll see in there, I've got multiple packs, but I go through the A's and the E's so quickly that I think I'm on pack number 5. It's crazy, and I'm so glad they're still making these because they are my absolute favourite. I think I use the white ones more than I do the navy, but you can see on there that I use the navy ones a lot. So I'm just spelling out treacle, which is my doggo's name, and then I decide that I want to add something else in just to help bring that gold in a bit more. So I've grabbed the thickers from the same collection from Take Me Away, and I'm just going to add on a few little hearts. And then I do go back and add some gold Heidi Swap ink splatters onto the front before I finish it all as well, which I think is not on the video, so apologies for that. But just going to give you a quick show of this mini album. So I hope you've enjoyed episode 2 of the cut files. If you haven't, I'd be really grateful if you could give the video a thumbs up. If you're new here, I would love you to hit that subscribe button. Go back and have a look at some of my other series as well. I've covered 6x6 paper pads, I've covered washi, I've covered traveller's notebooks, I've covered alphas, so there's loads of inspiration on my channel already. And I'll see you all next time very soon for another video. Bye!